The gavel slammed down like a gunshot in the marble courtroom of San Francisco's Hall of Justice, echoing through the vaulted ceilings and straight into Christopher Hale's chest. "You're no son of mine," his father spat from the witness stand, voice laced with venom that cut deeper than any knife. His eyes, those cold, steel-blue eyes Christopher had inherited, locking onto him with a hatred that had simmered for years. In that frozen moment, as the judge cleared his throat and the family lawyer shuffled papers, Christopher felt the world tilt, the invisible thread tying him to the man who'd raised him snapping like a frayed rope over the Golden Gate. It was supposed to be a simple estate planning hearing, the kind rich families like the Hales did every decade to shuffle assets around like poker chips. Edward Hale, patriarch of Hale Industries, a shipping empire that dotted the Pacific with freighters hauling everything from California avocados to Asian electronics, had called them all in Christopher, his older brother Marcus, and their mother, Vivian, to update the will. But halfway through, Edward had veered off script, his face reddening as he jabbed a finger at Christopher. This boy," he'd thundered, "has shamed us all. Parading around with that man. I won't let his perversion taint the Hale legacy." Christopher, 28 and dressed in a crisp navy suit that suddenly felt like a straitjacket, gripped the edge of the oak table until his knuckles whitened. The air smelled of polished wood and stale coffee from the courthouse vending machine, but all he could taste was bile rising in his throat. Marcus, 32 and every inch the golden child with his Wall Street polish and a wife who'd just popped out their second trust fund baby, shifted uncomfortably beside him, avoiding Christopher's gaze. Vivian, elegant in her Chanel pearls even at 65, reached for her son's hand under the table, her fingers trembling. But Christopher pulled away. "Not here. Not now." The judge, a no-nonsense woman with silver streaks in her bob, banged the gavel again. "Mr. Hale, this is not the forum for personal grievances. We're here to discuss legal matters." But Edward wasn't done. He leaned forward, his liver-spotted hands clutching the rail, veins bulging like the ropes on his company's docks. "Legal? Fine. Then legally, I disown him. Cut him out. Not a dime. Marcus gets it all, the houses, the yachts, the board seats. Christopher, he can rot with his boyfriend in whatever Castro dive bar they call home." The words landed like hooks in Christopher's gut, yanking memories to the surface. Summers sailing off Sausalito, Edward teaching him to tie knots with calloused hands. Late nights in the Pacific Heights mansion, poring over nautical charts while Vivian hummed show tunes in the kitchen. Gone. All of it, erased because Christopher had fallen in love with a man. Because last Christmas, he'd finally introduced Michael Reyes to the family. Michael's easy laugh and warm brown eyes clashing like oil and water with Edward's bourbon-fueled bigotry. As the hearing adjourned, Christopher bolted from the room, his loafers slapping against the linoleum until he burst into the foggy November chill outside. San Francisco streets were a blur of cable cars clanging and tech bros hustling to startups, but he felt unmoored, adrift in the current that had always pulled him toward his father's approval. He fumbled for his phone, dialing the one number that grounded him. "Chris? Hey, babe, how'd it go?" Michael's voice was a lifeline, smooth as the lattes he brewed at their neighborhood spot in the Mission District. Christopher choked on a sob, leaning against a lamppost slick with mist. He disowned me, Mike. Right there. In front of everyone. Silence stretched. Then Michael's tone hardened with that fierce protectiveness Christopher adored. Screw him. Come home. I'll make pozole, and we'll burn that bastard's photo. Home. Their one-bedroom walk-up with the creaky floors and the balcony overlooking murals of Aztec warriors and rainbow flags. That was home. Not the Hale mansion with its echoing halls and portraits of stern ancestors who'd built fortunes on the gold rush and broken backs. Christopher hailed a cab. The city unfolding like a crumpled map. Lombard streets' crooked twists mirroring the knot in his chest. The Bay Bridge arching toward Oakland like a promise of escape. By the time he pushed through the door, the scent of simmering hominy and chilies wrapped around him like Michael's arms. Michael was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up on his faded Metallica tee, his black hair tied back in a messy ponytail, tattoos of Mayan glyphs snaking up his forearms from his days apprenticing as a tattoo artist before switching to coffee. 30. He was all compact muscle and quiet intensity, the kind of guy who'd grown up in East LA dodging gang tags but dreamed of screenwriting scripts that flipped Hollywood on its head. Christopher collapsed onto the sagging couch, burying his face in a throw pillow that smelled of Michael's citrus cologne. It was like he was reading from some 1950s script. Perversion. Jesus. Mike. And Marcus just sat there, like it was my fault. Michael crossed the room in 2 strides, kneeling to cup Christopher's face, thumbs brushing away tears with a tenderness that made Christopher's heart ache anew. Your brother's a spineless prick. Always has been. But you're the real Hale, the one with guts. Remember that internship you turned down at his firm to start your nonprofit? Feeding the homeless vets down by the Embarcadero? That's legacy, Chris. Not some dusty will. They'd met 2 years ago at a queer film festival in the Castro. Christopher nursing a gin and tonic after a donor meeting for his org. Michael slipping him a flyer for an indie short about undocumented dreamers. One conversation led to stolen kisses in the alley behind the theater. Then mornings tangled in sheets, whispering futures over takeout burritos. Michael got it, the weight of family expectations, the sting of rejection. His own folks in Boyle Heights had disowned him at 17 for being gay, shipping him north with a bus ticket and a Bible. Love's the only inheritance that matters, he'd say, tracing Christopher's jawline with lips that tasted like lime and hope. That night, they made love slowly, deliberately, as if mapping each other's scars. Michael's hands roamed Christopher's lean runner's frame, pausing at the faded tattoo on his hip, a compass Rose Edward had called Foolish Boyhood Ink. Christopher arched into him, gasping Michael's name like a prayer, their bodies sinking in the dim glow of string lights draped over the headboard. Afterward, spent and slick, they lay with legs entwined, rain pattering against the fire escape like Morse code for stay. But dawn brought no absolution. Christopher's phone buzzed with a text from Vivian. Darling, come for brunch. We need to talk. Edwards. Not well. His stomach twisted. Not well. The man who'd chain-smoked Cubans while closing multimillion deals, who jogged the Presidio trails at 65 like he was chasing immortality. Christopher glanced at Michael, still asleep, one arm flung protectively over the pillow. He dressed quietly, leaving a note, family drama. Back by noon. Love you. The drive to Pacific Heights was a gauntlet of mansions perched like kings on Nob Hill, their iron gates mocking his beat-up Prius. Vivian met him at the door, her face drawn, eyes puffy from crying. He's upstairs. Doctor's been. Is his heart congestive failure? Weeks? Maybe. Christopher followed her up the grand staircase. Portraits of Hales passed glaring down. Whalers, railroad barons, all straight-backed and unyielding. Edward's room smelled of antiseptic and old money, the king bed dwarfing his frail form propped against silk pillows. Tubes snaked from his nose to an oxygen tank humming softly. He looked small, deflated, the tycoon reduced to a husk. "Christopher," Edward rasped, waving Vivian out with a feeble hand. The door clicked shut, leaving father and son in heavy silence. "You came." It wasn't gratitude. It was accusation. "What? You think I'd let you die hating me?" Christopher's voice cracked, anger bubbling up. "After yesterday, you gutted me in court. That? For what? Because I love a man who actually sees me." Edward's chest heaved, a wet rattle underscoring his words. "You were always soft. Marcus. He's the heir. Built the company with me. You? Chasing ghosts with your do-gooder dreams. Ghosts? Those ghosts are men who fought for this country, while families like ours profited off their silence." Christopher paced, fists clenched. "And Michael, he's not a phase. He's my future. If that's soft, fine. Better than being a cold bastard like you." Edward's eyes flickered, something unreadable passing through them. Regret? Defiance? He reached for the bedside table, fumbling with a brass lamp until a hidden drawer slid open. Inside, a yellowed envelope, sealed with red wax stamped with the Heir crest. "Read it. After I'm gone." Christopher snatched it, the paper crackling like dry leaves. "What is this? Another disownment?" Edward's laugh dissolved into a cough. "Insurance, boy. For when you see what a Heir really is." He stormed out, envelope burning in his pocket, the weight of unspoken truths pressing like fog on the bay. Back in the mission, Michael was waiting with fresh coffee and questions Christopher couldn't answer yet. As they sat on the balcony, watching muraled walls catch the midday sun, he tore open the seal. Inside, a DNA report, dated 29 years ago. Paternity test. Marcus Heir. Not Edward's son. The world spun again. His brother, the heir, the favorite, a lie. And scribbled on the margin in Edward's spidery hand, "You're the only blood Heir left." "Forgive me?" Christopher's hands shook, the paper fluttering to the floor. Michael picked it up, eyes widening as he read. "Holy shit, Chris. This changes everything." But did it? Forgiveness wasn't a document. It was a bridge burned and rebuilt, plank by plank. And as the afternoon bled into evening, with Michael's head on his shoulder and the city humming below, Christopher wondered if he had the strength to cross it. Weeks blurred into a haze of hospital vigils and whispered family secrets, the envelope's revelation festering like an untreated wound. Christopher shuttled between the sterile glow of UCSF Medical Center and the chaotic warmth of their apartment, where Michael anchored him with late-night talks and the kind of touch that said, "You're enough." Edward lingered, in and out of consciousness, his empire ticking on without him, board meetings proxied by Marcus, who strutted in like a peacock oblivious to the axe hovering above. One rainy Tuesday, as Christopher dozed in the vinyl visitor chair, Edward stirred. "Water," he croaked, and Christopher poured from a pink plastic pitcher, steadying the straw with hands that still bore the calluses from volunteering at the soup kitchen. Edward sipped, eyes sharpening on his son. "You read it?" "Yeah." Christopher's voice was flat, guarded. "Marcus isn't yours. So what? You gonna rewrite the will now? Make me king of the castle overnight?" Edward's lips twisted in a wry smile, the first genuine one in years. Wouldn't that burn? The faggot son inheriting it all. The slur landed soft this time, almost affectionate in its familiarity. But Christopher flinched anyway. "Don't call me that. Not anymore. Fair." Edward sank back, oxygen hissing. Vivian. She had an affair. Summer '93. During that merger in Tokyo. I was gone months. Came back to her glowing. Then Marcus 9 months later. Test confirmed it. Never told him. Let him think he was mine, the protege. Christopher leaned forward, elbows on knees, the chair creaking. Why keep it quiet? You could have shipped him off. Started over. Love, son. Stupid, messy love. Edward's gaze drifted to the window, where rain lashed the panes like accusations. For her. For the Heir name. But you. From the day you were born, screaming in that Nob Hill nursery, you were mine. Blood and bone. That's why it hurt so much, seeing you choose him over us. Him? Michael? Christopher's laugh was bitter. I didn't choose. I fell. Hard. Like you fell for Mom. Or whatever rom-com version of your life you tell yourself. Edward coughed, waving off the nurse who poked her head in. Point is, the will's ironclad now. Lawyers snuck it in last night. Your sole heir. Houses. Stocks. The whole damn fleet. Marcus gets a trust, enough to yacht around the Med without working. But control, yours. The room spun, monitors beeping a frantic rhythm. Christopher stood, pacing the linoleum scarred by countless rolling beds. You think a signature fixes this? Years of you looking through me. Dad? The holidays where you'd toast Marcus's deals while I pitched my nonprofit like a beggar? And when I brought Michael home, God, the way you sneered, like he was trash on your doorstep. Edward's face crumpled, the mask of the magnate slipping to reveal the man beneath. Scared, sorry, human. I was wrong. Raised in the 50s, son. Navy brat, all stiff upper lips and don't ask don't tell before it was a slogan. Thought I could tough love you straight. Failed. Spectacularly. Christopher stopped, back to the bed, fists balled at his sides. Rain drummed harder, a veil over the city lights twinkling like distant stars. Tough love? That what you call it when you dead-name my boyfriend in front of Aunt Lydia? Or when you forgot my birthday because Pride was that weekend? A tear tracked down Edward's cheek. Unashamed. I was afraid. Of losing you to a world that chews up boys like you and spits out husks. But look at you, stronger than me. Building something real out there. Feeding the forgotten while Marcus golfs with crooks. The door swung open then. Vivian sweeping in with a thermos of bone broth. Her perfume cutting the bleach tang. Marcus trailed. Tie loosened. Phone glued to his ear barking at some junior exec. He froze mid-sentence, sensing the electricity. Everything okay? Edward mustered a nod. Family meeting. Sit. Marcus dropped into the chair, oblivious, launching into updates. Q4 projections are up 12%. That new container route to Shanghai's a goldmine. His grin was all teeth, polished by years of being the chosen one. Christopher watched, the DNA report a ghost between them, pity mingling with rage. How to shatter a brother's world without becoming the villain. He excused himself to the hallway, dialing Michael. It's happening. The will. I'm in. Michael's whoop echoed through the receiver. Hell yes, we're popping champagne tonight. Or, that cheap Prosecco from the bodega. But as Christopher pocketed the phone, Marcus emerged, clapping a hand on his shoulder. Hey, little bro. Dad looks rough. Huh? Listen, after this blows over, let's grab steaks at Harris's. My treat. Talk expansion, maybe fold your charity into the Corp Foundation. Tax write-off and good PR. The casual assumption the empire as ours, not yours, ignited something primal. Christopher shrugged him off. Expansion? Yeah, sure. Starting with truth serum. Marcus blinked. Golden boy charm flickering. What? Nothing. Christopher forced a smile. Heart pounding. Not yet. Let the old man drop the bomb. Back inside, Edward was recounting a story from Christopher's childhood. The time he'd snuck aboard a hail freighter at 12, hiding in the cargo hold until dawn, dreaming of captaining his own ship. Vivian laughed softly, dabbing her eyes, while Marcus shifted, out of place in the nostalgia. When Edward finished, he turned to his eldest. Marcus, son. We need to talk about the will. The room went still. Marcus leaned in, expectant. Yeah? Amending for the new kid on the way. Edward's hand trembled as he gripped the bedsheet. No. It's Christopher. Sole executor. Everything. Marcus's face drained of color, mouth opening and closing like a landed fish. What, Dad? We built this together. The Shanghai deal? That was my pitch. Vivian reached for him, but he jerked away. Affair? He spat, piecing it together from Edward's halting explanation. The affair, the test, the lie. You knew? All this time, and you let me think. I loved you like my own, Edward whispered. Still do. Bullshit. Marcus surged to his feet, chair scraping. You pitted me. The cuckoo in the nest. And now you hand it to him? The family embarrassment. His glare skewered Christopher. Because he's what? The blood prince? Fuck that. I'll contest it. DNA or not, I've earned this. He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the forestand. Vivian sobbed quietly, and Edward closed his eyes, exhausted. Christopher stood frozen, the crown of thorns settling heavy on his brow. Heir to what? A fractured dynasty built on secrets and slurs? That night, alone in the apartment while Michael pulled a double shift, Christopher pored over the will's fine print by lamplight. Pages of legalese swam, hail tower in the financial district, vacation homes in Tahoe and Napa, offshore accounts fat with oil money from wartime contracts. Enough to fund 100 nonprofits, or buy silence from 1,000 bigots. But power? That was the poison pill, whispering temptations of revenge. Cut Marcus off cold. Sell the company to the highest bidder. Watch it burn. Michael found him at 2 a.m., slumped over the kitchen table amid takeout containers and scribbled notes. Whoa! Easy there, Rockefeller. You look like you wrestled a kraken. He slid behind Christopher, massaging tense shoulders, lips brushing his neck. Talk to me. It's too much. Christopher twisted to face him, eyes red-rimmed. Dad's dying. Marcus hates me more than ever. And this, he tapped the folder. It's a curse disguised as a gift. What if I fuck it up? Turn into him. Michael knelt, taking both hands in his. You won't. You're the guy who turns dockside warehouses into shelters for queer kids kicked out like we were. That's your compass, Chris. Not some dusty vault of cash. He pulled him up, leading to the bedroom where candles flickered like fireflies. Let me remind you who's in charge here. Their lovemaking was urgent, a reclaiming. Michael pinning him gently to the mattress, mouths crashing in a rhythm that drowned out the storm outside. Christopher lost himself in the salt of Michael's skin, the low groans that vibrated through them both, hips grinding in a dance as old as longing. Climax hit like a wave cresting the bay, leaving them gasping, entwined, Michael's heartbeat a steady drum against his chest. As sleep tugged, Michael murmured, "Whatever comes, we face it, heirs or not." But dawn brought the call. Edward Hale, gone at 4:17 a.m. Heart gave out, peaceful. Christopher dressed in black wool, the weight of widowhood settling early. Funeral at Grace Cathedral, the city's elite in pews like mourners at a coronation. Marcus sat stone-faced in the front row, lawyers flanking him like hyenas. Whispers rippled. Disinheritance? Blood test? Scandal. Christopher stood at the podium, eulogy trembling in his grip. Edward Hale was a titan. Flawed, fierce, unbreakable. He taught me to navigate storms, even if he couldn't chart his own. Eyes on Marcus. He added, family isn't blood. It's choice. And today, we choose grace. After, in the receiving line, Marcus cornered him by the rose window's kaleidoscope light. Grace? Save it for the courtroom. I'll bury you in appeals. That will's fraud, undue influence, incapacity. You stole my life. Christopher met his gaze. Steady. Your life? The one built on Dad's lie? Go ahead. Fight. But win or lose, you're still my brother. Marcus's punch was verbal, vicious. Brother? You're a freak who corrupted him at the end. Whispering in his ear, turning him soft. He leaned close, breath hot. Watch your back, Chris. Hales don't lose quiet. The threat lingered as Christopher fled to the mission, collapsing into Michael's arms. It's war now, he whispered, the city lights mocking from afar. Michael held him tighter. Then we armor up. Love first. The reading of the will was a powder keg in the offices of Hale and Associates, a glass-walled eyrie overlooking the Embarcadero's ferry terminals where gulls wheeled like opportunistic shareholders. Christopher arrived early, Michael's hand a secret talisman in his pocket, a simple silver ring engraved with ancla, Spanish for anchor. For luck, Michael had said that morning, kissing him fierce over burnt toast. And because you're not facing vultures alone. The conference room hummed with tension. Vivian, pale in pearls, clutching a lace handkerchief. Marcus, flanked by a shark from a Century City firm, his jaw set like concrete, and a smattering of cousins and execs, eyes darting like they smelled blood in the Bay air. The lawyer, a bespectacled fossil named Hargrove who'd drafted Hale's fortunes since Watergate, cleared his throat and began. Per the codicil executed November 10th, Edward Hale bequeaths the entirety of his estate, valued at $1.2 billion, to his son, Christopher James Hale, as sole heir and executor. Gasps rippled. Marcus's chair scraped back an inch. Hargrove droned on. Properties from the Napa Vineyard to the Aspen Chalet. Hale Industries stock. 51% controlling interest. Even the vintage Chris Craft docked in Sausalito, the one Christopher had learned to skipper as a teen. Trusts for Vivian and minor bequests for staff. But Marcus, a modest $50 million annuity. In recognition of loyal service, Marcus exploded halfway through, slamming a fist on the mahogany. This is insanity. Dad was doped on morphine, hallucinating, coerced by him, jabbing at Christopher. Playing the prodigal son card, the lawyer adjusted his glasses. Mr. Heir, the testator was of sound mind, as attested by 2 physicians and video deposition. The DNA evidence is irrefutable. You are not biologically Edward's son. Cousin Lydia gasped theatrically. Vivian whimpered. Marcus whirled on Christopher, face purple. You leaked it? To the old man? God, you're poison. Always were, the pansy who wouldn't man up, mooning over boys while I closed deals. Enough! Vivian stood, voice quavering but steel-edged. Marcus, sit. This isn't you. Your father, Edward, loved you. Chose you. Every day. Chose? Marcus sneered, but his eyes glistened. He pitted. And now his bastard spawn gets the throne because of some sperm lottery. He stormed to the window, fists clenched against the fog-shrouded bay. I'll sue. Embezzlement. Forgery. Hell. I'll drag your fag boyfriend into it. Paint him as the gold digger puppeteer. The room froze. Christopher rose slowly, heat flooding his veins. Say that again. You heard me. Marcus turned, venom dripping. Michael Reyes, tattooed spick from the wrong side of the tracks, latching on to you for a green card to the good life. I'll bury him in depositions. His shop, his scripts, his whole LA sob story, front page fodder for the Chronicle. Christopher lunged, stopped only by Michael's phantom grip in memory. No ankla. He breathed deep, the AC's hum grounding him. Threaten all you want. But Michael's worth 10 of you. He didn't need a DNA test to love me. Sue if you must. I'll fight clean. Hargrove interjected smoothly. Contestation window is 90 days. Mediation recommended. But Marcus was already gone. Door banging like thunder. In the elevator descent, Vivian clutched Christopher's arm. He'll cool. He's hurt, darling. Like we all are. Christopher nodded absently, mind racing. Hurt? Marcus had been handed silver spoons his whole life. Phillips Exeter. Yale Law. A corner office by 25. Christopher, community college nights after dock shifts. Bootstrapping his nonprofit anchor outreach with grants and grit. Turning abandoned piers into hubs for LGBTQ+ youth. Counseling. Job training. A safe harbor from streets that chewed up runaways like chum. Back at the apartment, Michael was scripting at the thrift store desk. Laptop glowing amid dog-eared copies of Brokeback Mountain and Call Me by Your Name. He looked up, sensing the storm. How bad? Worse than bad. War. Christopher recounted it, collapsing onto the rug as Michael's arms enveloped him. He went after you. Called you. Everything ugly. Michael's laugh was low, rueful, predictable. White boys like him always need a villain with color. Born to Salvadoran immigrants. Heat clawed from East LA graffiti walls to SF State Film Program on scholarships. His short screening at Frameline festivals where Christopher had first spotted him. Confident, kind, a beacon in the crowd. They ordered Thai from down the block, eating cross-legged on the floor, Michael's foot hooking Christopher's calf in easy intimacy. You know what this means, right? Heir hail, teasing lilt, but eyes serious. Private jet to Cannes? Or we finally fixed that leak in the bathroom. Christopher chuckled. First real one in days. Nonprofit empire. Anchor goes national shelters from Seattle to San Diego. No more scraping for donors who pat my head and say noble cause, kid, but ROI. Michael's grin lit the room brighter than the neon from the taqueria sign outside. That's my captain. But first, he tugged Christopher onto his lap, hands sliding under his shirt, tracing ribs with feather-light touches. Celebrate the win. What followed was worship. Michael's mouth mapping collarbones, eliciting shivers. Christopher's fingers threading through that ponytail, pulling just enough to draw a gasp. They moved to the bed in a tangle of limbs and laughter, slow-burn passion building to crescendo, Christopher on top, setting the pace. Michael's nails digging crescents into his back as they shattered together, breaths mingling in the afterglow. Sleep came fitful, dreams of freighters sinking under sabotaged hulls. Morning brought the first salvo, a process server at the door, summons for breach of fiduciary duty, alleging Christopher had unduly influenced Edward with personal vices. The tabloids ignited. Heir, fortune feud turns filthy? Grainy photos of Christopher and Michael at last pride, arm in arm, splashed beside Marcus's wedding portrait. The office became a bunker. Christopher hired Elena Vasquez, a bulldog attorney from the Castro with a rep for eviscerating corporate homophobes. She pored over files in their living room, red penning like a surgeon. He's bluffing, she declared over vegan tacos. No evidence. But it'll drag. Discovery means airing your laundry. Dates. Fights. That weekend in Big Sur when you two eloped, for laughs. Michael snorted, chopping cilantro. Worth it. Best impulsively non-legal vows ever. Elena eyed them fondly. You two are goals. But steal up, Marcus'll subpoena everything. Therapy notes. Donor lists. Make it personal. It did. Depositions were hellscapes. Marcus's lawyers grilling Christopher on his lifestyle, implying Michael's influence bordered on extortion. Mr. Hale, on June 15th, did you and Mr. Reyes engage in objection? Elena thundered. Relevance. Sustained. But the damage seeped. Poison in the water. Protests erupted outside Hale Tower. Unions fearing layoffs if Christopher, inexperienced, took helm. Queer activists chanting solidarity. Rainbow flags whipping in the wind. Christopher addressed them from the steps. Voice amplified. This fight's bigger than me. It's for every kid told they're not enough because of who they love. Anchor stands with you. Cheers thundered. But inside, doubt gnawed. Late nights. He'd wake sweating. Michael's warmth a tether. One evening, post another brutal session. He snapped, shoving files off the table. Glass shattering. I can't do this, Mike. It's ripping us apart. You dodging calls from your shop, 'cause reporters camp out? Me dodging boardroom knives. Michael pulled him close. Steady. Then quit. Walk. Give it to Marcus. Start fresh. We could road trip the Pacific coast. Script your life like one of my films. Tempting. So tempting. But the envelopes echo. You're the only blood Hale left. And deeper, the boy who'd tied those knots, dreaming of command. No, Christopher whispered. I fight for the kid I was. For us. Their reconciliation was raw. On the kitchen floor amid shards. Michael's apologies in kisses. Christopher's pleas in touches. Bodies colliding in desperate affirmation. Bruises bloomed like badges. Love's fierce proof. Then betrayal struck deepest. Vivian called. Voice breaking. Marcus. He's leaking emails. Old ones from your coming out. Dad's rants. Calling you unnatural to the press. Darling, It's everywhere. Christopher's world imploded. Front page. Hail Patriarch's homophobic hate mail. The letters that disinherited a son? Scanned pages. Edward's cursive fury. Christopher's shame will end this line. Twitter exploded, hail hate trending. Death threats pinging his inbox. He confronted her at the mansion. Rain sheeting the solarium windows. You knew? And let him? Vivian wept. He stole my laptop. I tried to stop. Betrayal's blade twisted. His own mother, complicit in silence. Christopher fled, driving aimlessly through the Presidio, fog cloaking cypress trees like shrouds. Hours later, Michael's texts lit his phone. Where are you? Please. He found him at Anchor's main shelter, a converted warehouse by the docks. Michael organizing a youth art night, teens painting murals of chosen families, laughter cutting the salt air. Seeing Christopher, soaked and shattered, Michael crossed the space, enveloping him without words. I can't lose you to this, Christopher murmured into his shoulder. You won't. Michael's vow was iron. We're the storm now. Mediation convened in a neutral financial district high-rise. Neutral ground between Hale Tower's gleam and the courthouse's gravity. Christopher arrived armored. Tailored suit from the thrift shop tailored sharper. Elena at his elbow like a sentinel. Michael waited outside in the lobby's leather club chairs, flipping through the Advocate. His presence a silent I've got you that steadied Christopher's pulse. Marcus was already there, across the polished walnut table, his legal team a phalanx of Ivy League suits. He looked diminished, hollowed by weeks of siege, dark circles under eyes that once sparkled with conquest, tie askew like a noose loosened. No warmth in his nod, just a predator's appraisal. The mediator, a silver-haired ex-judge named Patel, opened with boilerplate, Gentlemen, this is about resolution, not retaliation. Mr. Hale Sr.'s wishes. Marcus, he corrected curtly. I'm a Hale by every metric but a lab slip. Patel nodded neutrally. The estates contested on grounds of incapacity and undue influence. Proposed terms. Elena's counter was swift. Dismissal with prejudice. Mr. Christopher Hale honors the will as written. Offer your client an advisory role board seat. Consulting fee to preserve family ties. Marcus barked a laugh. Advisory? To the Rainbow Warrior? Pass. I want half. Controlling interest split. Or I go nuclear, subpoena mom's emails. Your boyfriend's finances. How's that script hustle panning out? Chris. Still slinging Joe while dreaming of Oscars. Christopher's jaw tightened, fingers drumming the table's edge. Michael's face flashed, laughing over plot twists, inked arms waving like semaphore. Leave him out. This is between us. Is it? Marcus leaned in, voice oily. Dad's letters painted a picture. You preyed on his guilt, whispered sweet nothings about forgiveness while angling for the keys. And Vivian? She's testifying tomorrow. Says you manipulated the sickbed scene. The lie stung like salt in fresh cuts. Vivian had recanted, shored up by guilt, but doubt wormed in. Christopher shot Elena a glance. She mouthed steady. Hours dragged. Offers volleyed like badminton birdies. 30% stake. Then 40%. Veto rights on moral decisions. Marcus's jab at Anchor expansions. Tempers frayed. Patel called recesses where Christopher paced the carpet. Texting Michael, he's breaking me down. Feels like Dad's ghost in the room. Michael's reply, channel it. You're the heir to heart, not hate. Lunch? They met in a deli around the corner. Pastrami on rye steaming between them. The hum of brokers on phones a ironic backdrop. Michael wiped mustard from Christopher's lip, thumb lingering. He's scared. Lashing 'cause he knows he lost fair. Fair, Christopher scoffed. But Michael's calm seeped in, warm as the soup. You think mediation sticks? Or does he drag us to trial, airing our dirtiest laundry for the jury? Then we wash it public. Michael's eyes sparked. Press conference post this. You, owning the narrative, Heir fights for queer legacy. Bridges family divide. Turn poison to power. Christopher's heart swelled. That familiar pull toward Michael's vision. The storyteller who saw plots where Christopher saw pitfalls. They stole a kiss in the alley, quick and claiming, rain-slick bricks pressing their backs. How'd I get you? He murmured. Luck. And bad taste in gin. Michael grinned, nipping his earlobe. Now go slay dragons. I'll be your bard. Back in the room, resolve hardened. Christopher countered bold. 20% non-voting shares. Lifetime annuity bumped to 75 mil. Join Anchor's board. Real impact. Not photo ops. Or walk, and we settle nothing. Marcus scoffed. But his lawyers huddled, murmuring probabilities. Vivian's testimony loomed like a guillotine. Leaks had painted her as the tragic widow torn between sons. Whispers of her instability from Marcus's camp. Pills, therapy, the affair's ghost. The break came at dusk. City lights winking on like conspirators. Patel reconvened. Mr. Marcus Hale accepts modified terms. 25% shares. Advisory role. Joint Foundation for Family Philanthropy. Handshakes were glacial. Marcus's grip vice-tight. I's promising this isn't over. But as they filed out, he paused by Christopher. For what it's worth. Sorry about the letters. Heat of the moment. Christopher searched his face, regret flickering amid the rubble. Yeah. Me too. Outside, Michael rose, enveloping him in a hug that smelled of newsprint and home. Done. Truce. Shaky. Christopher exhaled, the bay breeze carrying fog's chill. Dinner? Something decadent. We earned it. They chose a hole in the wall in North Beach, candlelit tables, Sinatra crooning from speakers, plates of osso buco that fell off the bone. Wine flowed, Merlot loosening tongues. Michael regaled with a new script pitch, two brothers, empire crumbling, love the only salvage. You as the conflicted heir, obviously. Me, the wisecracking lover with a killer tattoo. Christopher laughed, foot tangling with Michael's under the table. Typecast. But I'd greenlight. Sobering. He added, Vivian's testifying tomorrow. Clean up from Marcus's smear. Michael's hand covered his. She will. Mom's come around. Mine did. Eventually, sent tamales for Pride last year. The walk home was magic. North Beach's neon haze. Coit Tower silhouetted against stars pricking the clearing sky. At their door, passion ignited, Michael pressing Christopher against the frame, kisses hungry, hands fumbling keys. Inside, clothes shed like old skins, they tumbled to the couch, Michael's mouth hot on his throat, Christopher's gasps echoing off murals. It was exploratory, tender, fingers tracing tattoos, lips mapping freckles, building to a symphony of release that left them boneless, whispering endearments into the night. But dawn cracked the idol. Vivian's car pulled up at 7 a.m., her face ashen. They got to me, Christopher. Last night threats. If I testify for you, Marcus releases the full affair files. Photos, letters. Ruins me. The family, betrayal redux, sharper for its familiarity. Christopher's chest caved. So you're flipping? After everything. Tears streamed. I can't. He's my boy too. Please, understand. Michael, in boxers and bedhead, handed her coffee, voice gentle. Mrs. Hale, blood's one thing. Choice another. Walk away now. You lose both sons. She left in a swirl of Chanel, and Christopher shattered. A vase hurled, sobs wrenched from depths. Michael held the pieces, rocking him. We'll survive. Always do. The trial loomed, a coliseum of cross-exams. Opening arguments painted Christopher as opportunist, Michael's love as leverage. Evidence mounted. Therapy transcripts twisted to show resentment toward Edward. Anchor's finances scrutinized for lavish dates funded by influence peddling. Christopher took the stand day 3. Spotlight harsh as inquisition. Marcus's lead. A sneering patrician named Thorne. Paced like a televangelist. Mr. Hale, you visited your father frequently in his final weeks. Coincidence? Or calculation? Love, Christopher shot back, voice steady. The kind you sue over, snickers from the gallery. Thorne smirked. Love. And this Michael Reyes, your partner. He accompanied you once. Whispered advice. Elena objected. Overruled. Christopher leaned in. Michael doesn't whisper schemes. He reminds me to breathe. To be human. Thorne pounced. Human? Or manipulative? Emails show him urging you to push for the will. Fabricated. Gasped. But Michael, in the back row, met his eyes truth wins. Cross-dragged. But Elena redeemed. Witnesses from Anchor. Vets tearfully crediting Christopher's shelters. Even Hargrove, testifying Edward's lucidity, affection in final days. Vivian never appeared. Her absence screamed louder than perjury. Then, the twist. Marcus's star witness, a former nurse, crumbled under Elena's grill, paid off, recanting incapacity claims. Jury murmurs shifted. Closing. Christopher's words. This isn't about money. It's about a father who, in his last act, chose grace over grudge. I honor that. Not for empire, but for the boy he raised, the one who loves fiercely, flaws and all. Deliberation stretched 2 days. City holding breath. Christopher and Michael holed up at Tahoe Cabin. Hale property now his snow-blanketing pines, fire crackling. They skied cross-country, breaths fogging, Michael's whoops echoing as they tumbled into drifts, kissing snowflakes from lashes. We build from ashes, Michael said by the hearth, mulled wine warming palms. Their night was slow symphony, bodies oiled by lotion, massages melting tension. Union deep and affirming, stars wheeling outside as they peaked in quiet ecstasy. Verdict. Will upheld. Cheers erupted. Marcus fled, face ashen. But victory soured fast. That night, a call, Vivian, suicide attempt. Pills at the mansion. Ambulance wailed as Christopher raced. Michael driving through sleet-slick streets. Hospital. Stomach pumped. Stable but shattered. In the room, Tubes beeping. She gripped his hand. Forgive me. I chose wrong. Always, Christopher whispered. Michael at his side. The anchor holding. The aftermath was a slow thaw. San Francisco's winter yielding to tentative spring. Cherry blossoms dusting the Presidio like confetti at a reluctant parade. Christopher assumed the helm at Heir Industries. Not as conqueror but steward. Boardrooms reimagined with diverse voices. Profits funneled to Anchor's expansion. New hubs in LA's Skid Row. Seattle's Capitol Hill. Even a pilot in Marcus's old stomping ground. Manhattan's Chelsea. No purges. Just pivots. Sustainable shipping. Green freighters cutting carbon wakes. Marcus vanished initially, yachting the Med as his annuity allowed. Emails terse with updates on cooling off. Christopher didn't push. Space was mercy. But one May morning, a FedEx arrived. A battered leather journal. Edwards. Postmarked Capri. Inside, logs from his Navy days. Confessions scrawled in margins, homophobic rants regretted. A youthful crush on a bunkmate buried deep. Last entry. Christopher's courage humbles me. If I live, I'll say it. If not, let this be my apology. Tears blurred ink. Christopher shared it with Vivian over tea at her downsized condo in Russian Hill. The mansion sold to fund endowments. She traced the pages, voice soft. He was trying, in his way. Like me, reconciliation bloomed fragile. Weekly calls, then lunches at dim-sum spots where chopsticks clinked like olive branches. Vivian volunteered at Anchor, her socialite poise charming donors, her laughter thawing the warehouse chill. Michael's script sold to a queer indie house, greenlit for Sundance. Heirs apparent, twin brothers feuding over fortune and forgiveness, the lover as linchpin. Christopher cameoed as the boardroom heir, flubbed lines earning Michael's onset teases. Stick to shipping, babe. Their life wove richer. Anniversary in Big Sur. Cliffside cabin where waves crashed like applause. Lovemaking on decks under moonlit cypresses. Michael's hands reverent. Christopher's sighs a liturgy of gratitude. Mornings dawned with coffee and collabs. Michael's plots inspiring Anchor campaigns. Christopher's networks opening doors to Michael's filmmaker friends. But scars lingered, silvered not erased. Nightmares woke Christopher. Courtroom gavels morphing to father's fists. Michael soothing with stories, voices low in the dark. Marcus resurfaced summer's end. Email tentative. In Sicily. Read the journal? Dad was a mess. Like us. Beers when I dock. They met at the Sausalito Marina. Chris Craft bobbing gentle. Salt wind tousling hair. Marcus looked tanned. Leaner. The yacht glow faded to sailor's tan. Beers cracked. Foam hissing like unsaid sorries. I was an ass, Marcus started, staring at the bay. Entitled prick. Thought blood bought loyalty, not earned it. Christopher sipped. Foam bitter. You weren't wrong to fight. Just the weapons. Marcus nodded, eyes on a freighter gliding outbound. Therapy, yeah. Me. Shrinks and all. Turns out, imposter syndrome's a bitch when it's literal. A beat. Congrats on the flick. Saw the trailer. You clean up nice. Laughter broke ice. Tentative then true. They talked hours. Marcus's divorce filing. Quiet admission of his own bisexuality. Buried under brodates and blondes. Dad's shadow. You know? Thought straight made me worthy. You're worthy, Christopher said. Clinking bottles. Always were. Brother's blood or not. Hug was awkward, backslaps masking damp eyes. Marcus joined Anchor's board next month. His finance chops streamlining grants. His presence a bridge mended. Vivian's 60th. Remarried? No. But dating a gallery owner. Silver Fox with a laugh like jazz. Hosted at the vineyard. Rows of Cabernet heavy with fruit. Family. Expanded. Michael's folks flying up. Tamales steaming beside Vivian's roast. Marcus with his therapist-turned-girlfriend. Easy banter flowing. As dusk painted vines gold, Christopher pulled Michael to the gazebo. Strings of Edison bulbs twinkling like captured stars. 1 year since the will, he murmured. Ring glinting. Feels like lifetimes. Michael's smile-crinkled eyes. Good ones. The kind with plots we write together. Kiss deepened. Hands framing faces. World fading to their rhythm soft. Sure. Eternal. Edward's grave at Cypress Lawn overlooked hills rolling to the bay. Headstone simple Edward Hale, navigator of storms. They visited quarterly. Christopher leaving nautical charts folded small. Michael's haikus inked on rice paper. Forgiveness wasn't erasure. It was tending the garden where weeds grew wild. One autumn eve, fog cloaking the Golden Gate, Christopher stood on their balcony. City a luminous haze. Michael joined, arms circling waist. Penny for your empire? Christopher turned, forehead to forehead. Just grateful. For the hook, the gavel, the gut punch. Led here. To us. Michael's whisper. Breath mingling. They made love under the quilt of city lights. Bodies a map of journeys. Slow caresses charting ports of call. Peaks cresting like swells. Harbor in each other's arms. Dawn found them tangled. Coffee brewing. Futures unfurling like sails. Hail legacy. Reinvented, not tycoon's throne, but Anchor's chain, holding fast in tempests, drawing safe the dispossessed. Christopher, ere not to hate but heart, steered true. With Michael as North Star, family as crew, the voyage endless, winds fair. In the end, denial's document proved not end, but beginning, a testament that love, chosen and cherished, inherits all.